Hi, my name is Emanuele Lugli and I'm Assistant Professor of Art History at Stanford University. It's a tremendous honor that you decided to select Knots as a finalist for this book award. Knots is perhaps a strange book because it looks at one of the topics that has often been marginalized by historians. It looks at hair. I'm an art historian and I researched the work of Sandro Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci, and many other painters of the late 15th century. And these painters usually paint gorgeous hairstyles. One of the questions that drove my research was why? So, inspired by many material studies, I decided to look at how hair was constructed in late 15th century Florence. My idea was to look at everything that was written and published in Florence during the time of Lorenzo the Magnificent, that is, the 1469 to 1492. So I spent many months in the libraries of Florence, the Riccardiana, the Laurenziana, the Nazionale, to look at the manuscripts and the early printed editions of anything that talked about hair. My idea was to look only at the primary sources. I decided not to look at modern editions of Renaissance texts because modern editions usually sanitize those texts. They remove all the accidents, the things that don't make any sense, the comments, but these were precisely the things I was interested in. While reading all this material, I realized that when people were talking about hair, they were actually not talking about hair. They were talking about politics, they were talking about culture, they were talking about society, they were talking about gender a great deal. They were also talking about art. And so hair became the unexpected link to talk about the knots, that is, the core values of Florentine society. But while working on primary sources, I started asking me other types of questions. Questions about history writing. What kind of history are we writing if we're just looking at primary sources? Most of the primary sources are those that exist because they have been written by those in power. And while I couldn't detach myself from the primary sources, because doing so would be to contravene the very tenets of history writing, I could at least articulate some question. So in this book, there are different registers. There's a register that discusses the events, the sources, and then there's another register in which I articulate my anxieties and questions. I put a great deal of attention on the writing. I wanted this book to read like nothing else. It was supposed to be approachable, but also original. But more importantly, I wanted to examine with the reader at the same level many of the sources and the artworks produced at the time. So while this is a book about a short period of time, 20 years in one city, Florence, it's also a book that tries to ask me questions about the positionality of the art historian, the difficulty of working with sources. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.